What is going on, guys and girls? Welcome to the channel. In this video, what we are going to do is we are going to prepare a resume, a perfect resume that is for a Scrum Master role. And the resume that we're going to prepare in this video is actually going to be a resume that is getting a lot of calls right now. So, if you are part of a mentorship group, or if you want to join my mentorship group, what we do in our mentorship group is that we reiterate on our resume every week. Whatever resume gets the most calls, we I kind of try to adopt that framework for our resumes, or we try to give suggestions from that resume to the candidate. So this is the resume right now that we're going to discuss today, that we're going to kind of work on today, and I'm going to show you why this resume is getting calls and how you can prepare your Scrum Master resume by taking feedback from this resume and by taking some points from this resume. So if you're looking for a Scrum Master job, this video is going to help you out a lot, because by looking at this resume, you will get an idea of what recruiters look for, how to pass the screening, how to get a lot of calls, how to get invited for the interviews. If you are not getting invited for the interviews, one of the main reasons is that your resume is not well prepared. And yeah, so that's that. And if you are looking for mentorship, please check out our link down below. Reach out to me, give me a call. I'm always available. Uh, Not always available, but you can give me a call. Also, if you're looking for resume services, if you need your resume prepared, if you need help with your resume getting prepared, you can also reach out to me, or you can email me, which is linked in the description down below. So with that out of the way, let's get started. So what we are going to do is we are going to look at a sample resume, and over on this resume, what we are going to do is we are going to discuss the points that make qualify this resume, why it's getting a lot of calls right now, and why the recruiters are loving this resume right now. So that's what we're going to do today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. That's it. Let's get started. All right, I'm going to share my screen here. All right, so that's the resume that we are going to discuss today. So the main reason behind, as you guys can see, the first thing that we are going to see here in this resume is it starts with the name of the person in bold letters. Starts with the name, starts with the email, starts with the phone number, starts with the address, right? So that's the main heading of a resume. Every resume should have that heading. I think everybody universally knows that. Every resume should have that heading. Now, what does a perfect resume for a Scrum Master role looks like? Let's make that clear before we get started. So what a perfect resume for a Scrum Master role looks like is, so first of all, Scrum Master is a leadership role, okay? If you're applying for any leadership role, you need some sort of experience to be successful in that role, right? So if you are looking for a job as a Scrum Master, you need to have at least 6 to 7 years of experience where you have worked as Scrum Master, that you can showcase in your resume your skills and where you worked and what you did as Scrum Master, what kind of project did you work on, what value did you add in those projects, and things like that. So that experience is mandatory. If you're applying for a Scrum Master role, if you're looking for a Scrum Master job, you need experience. Without experience, nobody will hire you. So that's the first thing. Now, keeping that in mind, we know that we need 6 to 7 years of experience in our resume. If we don't have that much experience as Scrum Masters, it might not be possible to land a job, right? So now the second thing is that you have to reflect this in your resume. Now, how do you reflect this experience in your resume, which we are going to discuss today? Now, not only that, a perfect Scrum Master resume needs to have the right terminology. What do I mean by right terminology? For example, let's look at this resume right here. Cross-functional teams, okay? Stakeholder expectations, okay? Confluence and Jira, okay? Safe, Agile, Scrum, okay? Agile, Kanban, okay? DevOps. This is called terminology. A lot of resumes that I see, that I get a lot of people that come to my group and they have resumes prepared from their previous coachings or from the previous whatever they were doing. The resumes, they don't have the right terminology. And that's one of the reasons these people are not able to land a job or not able to get interviews, because their resumes are not well prepared. So the main reason, the main strength of a resume is in the terminology. The better your terminology is in the resume, the more the chances of getting a job is. So just like English is a language, same way a Scrum Master resume should speak a language of the Scrum Master, right? And the Scrum Master terminology reflects that language. So when I say Scrum Master terminology, you should be using terms like, program increment, or like Agile Kanban, Agile principles, visibility, team accountability, right? Cross-functional teams, right? All these words should be mentioned and reflected in your resume in a very clear and transparent way, where the recruiters can look at it and they can understand, wow, this person, they know their stuff, they have all the right terminology in the resume mentioned clearly, and it reflects that it reflects the right language, so to speak, right? Not only will this terminology help you impress the recruiter, but this terminology will also help you pass the initial screening, right? There are machines that screen that will also be passed using this resume, using this technology, using this terminology, right? Now that's out of the way. So how do you know you have a good resume, right? How do I know this is a good resume? Because if my candidate is applying for 100 jobs, she is getting at least 10 callbacks. She applied to 100 jobs, 10 people are calling her back for scheduling interviews. That's how I know this resume is actually good. Now, for this week, this is a resume. Next week, maybe some other resume starts getting calls, and we will employ that. So that's what we do in our group. We kind of keep changing our resumes almost every week or every month. We try to add new stuff or kind of modify things, modify the language, so to speak, according to the market, depending on the market changes and things like that. And it's very important to do that. If you have a resume from 2019 or 2020 and you're trying to use that resume in this market, it might be a little bit challenging. So those are the things that you have to keep in mind. As the market keeps changing, you have to kind of change your ways and kind of move accordingly to kind of be successful in this market. And that's what we try to do in our group. So that's this. Now we have discussed the resumes terminology. We have discussed how to write the right terminology. We have discussed what's a good resume. Now let's move on to the next thing. So what do recruiters look for in a resume? We answered that question. They look for the right terminology. And the other most important thing the recruiters look for in a resume is similarities to the current role that they are hiring for. Let's say if I'm hiring for for example, senior Scrum Master, right? In the job description, there will be some description that I want from this particular person. And when the job description says a certain thing, if my resume's language matches that description, the more it matches that job description, the more my chances of passing the initial screen, the more my chances of getting noticed by the recruiter. So one common thing I tell, one good habit that I have seen, some successful candidates that we use our resumes is whatever job you're applying for, you have to actually scan for the job description and try to pick out the right words and the right terminology and write your any most recent experience in that language. So if the job description says we are looking for a Scrum Master with this and this and this, in your resume, you can reflect those same things in your most recent experience, or you can copy and paste those if you have that experience, right? I'm not saying lie on your resume or whatever, right? That's your that's your what's the right? That's your prerogative or whatever the right word is. That's your perception, right? That's your thing, what you want to do with your resume. I'm saying that if you have experience and you want to you have to it's a language that you have to write, right? The job description is written in a certain language, you can use that language in your resume. You guaranteed you have that experience, right? So that's what you can do. So job description, whatever language the job description is written in, whatever is written in that job description, you can use that information and you can copy and paste it in your resume, or you can modify some of it according to your experience. Whatever you have done in your past, you can modify it and tweak it a little bit, make it parallel to your resume, make parallel to your experience and reflect it in your most recent job. For example, let's say if John Doe is applying for a Scrum Master role, and he's applying for a Scrum Master role, let's say in in Dubai Bank, in Dubai, USA, what he's going to do is he's going to look at the job description, and his key contributions that are reflected right here will be very, very similar to the job description. Only for this job, everything else can stay the same. Whatever he has worked, whatever is everything else can stay the same, right? But for this one, it will match very, very closely to the job description, almost kind of like a sibling to the job description, right? So now that's the basic idea of that. Now, the other thing that can help you get hired faster or get calls faster is, so as we discussed, how can you get picked up faster? How can you get the most amount of interviews if you're applying for a Scrum Master job? How can you prepare your resume in a way where you get the most amount of calls? Terminology, get the right terminology in there, and make sure the job description matches what you have on there. Tweak the language a little bit, or make it similar to the job description, or whatever, right? The third thing that you can do is that third thing that gets the most calls is that the industry. If you have worked as a Scrum Master in banking and you are applying for a bank role, a Scrum Master banking role, uh, for example, you all your career you have worked for banks. You have worked for Dubai Bank. You have worked for this bank, that bank, and now you're applying for a bank in the United States, right? So your resume will be given a higher priority than a person who has never worked in a bank before, or a person who has maybe you know less experience in banking and more experience in healthcare, right? So make sure that the industry that you're applying for, your jobs, you have worked in that industry before, or your previous jobs should be kind of in the same industry. That increases your chances of getting your resume picked up faster. Okay, so if you have worked in banking, keep applying to banks. If you've worked in healthcare, apply to healthcare companies. If you have experience in whatever industry you have experience in, right? You apply to those companies. So that will make sure that your resume will get picked up faster. So how do you get your resume picked up faster? Terminology, job description. Make sure the job description matches the language that you have on your resume, at least your most recent experience. And the third thing is your industry. If you have worked in a certain industry all your life as a Scrum Master, then you only apply to that industry. That will ensure that your resume gets picked up very, very faster as compared to other people who might have different industries on their resume, or who might be kind of, alternating between different industries. Okay. So those are some of the tips and tricks that you can use to kind of get your resume picked up faster. And if you're watching this video, consider yourself lucky, because not a lot of people might be watching this video or might not be getting these tips, or they're working with somebody else that are not just that good. So if you're watching this video, consider yourself lucky, implement these, and the results will shock you. So the next thing that we will discuss here is that how should a proper experience per job look like, right? How should you reflect your resume with a proper experience, right? So let's look at this resume right here. We will go to let's start from the beginning first before we go to experience. So it starts with, John Doe, Scrum Master, US citizen. If you are in UK, you can mention that. If you are in a different country, you can mention that, right? Experience in, so the first will be kind of like the experience and what you have done in your career as a Scrum Master. The first kind of the part of the resume will reflect that kind of a summary of what you have done in your role as a Scrum Master in your experience, right? As we move on from there, the next part will be the key strengths. What are the strengths that you have that make you kind of a powerful person to land this role, or that makes you an eligible person to land this role, right? What are the key strengths that you have, right? That'll be the next thing. The next thing over here is education, like your certifications, right? What kind of this particular candidate has safe certification, right? What kind of certifications do you have that make you a good kind of candidate to apply for this job, that make you a successful candidate to apply for this job, right? What kind of education do you have? What kind of degrees do you have, right? Those kind of things you will mention here. And one thing, make it clear: just because you have certifications, just because you have a degree, doesn't mean that you will land a Scrum Master job. Okay, those things are completely not related to each other. Having certificates, having experience doesn't guarantee you a job. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Just because you have certain certifications, you have achieved certain certifications, or you're doing certain certifications, spending money on certain certifications, or spending money on degrees, doesn't mean you will land a job. Okay, that's in no way related to that. The sole reason you will land a job is when you crack the interview. If you have certifications, it doesn't matter. If you have a degree, it doesn't matter, right? So if you don't have a degree, you don't have certifications, doesn't mean you can't land a job, as long as you can crack the interview, right? But certifications are good, degrees are good, everything is good, right? It's good, right? um, I'm not a big fan of them, but to each their own. So now, I'm not a big fan of them because I prefer that once you get a job, let the company pay for those things instead of you spending your own money on those things. And so that's my opinion, but to each their own. But they're not bad. Okay, so now let's go to the technical skills and tools, right? So next you will write what's your technical knowledge like, what's your technical understanding of technical things like, right? What the technical skills do you have, what are the technical skills do you have? So this particular person, she's mentioned Jira, Rally, Confluence, Azure DevOps, Jira Align, and she has mentioned all these things, that all the technical skills that she has. To be honest, I would tweak it a little bit. I would add Java, I would add Python, I would add cybersecurity skills. So because those are skills that I have, I would add SQL, I would add a little bit of HTML, CSS, all those things. I would add all those things here as well, because those are the skills that I have, and it shows a little bit more of my technical knowledge and my technical expertise as well. And you can add those things in there as well if you have if you have the technical knowledge and the technical expertise. Don't shy away from adding technical things in there. If you have testing knowledge, if you have any other Selenium or whatever, right? If you have any knowledge, technical knowledge, make sure you reflect it in your resume in as candid way as possible. The more you write, the better it is, but be sure you know something about it, right? Now, So that's that. That's the beginning part of the resume. That's the first page. Now this is a multiple page resume. You can have a 3-page resume or a 4-page resume. 3 pages is good enough. Generally. So that's the beginning, and there's the intro, and that's the heading part of the resume. Now next is, let's get into the work experience. The first thing in the work experience is the bank. So this particular person, she worked for Dubai Bank in Dubai, USA, whatever, right? She worked there as a senior Scrum Master. She worked there from this date to this date, da 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 da. Now, the next line is very, very interesting. So it says right here, project one. What it means by project one is she clearly mentions what project she has worked on, right? Project two, she clearly mentions what project she has worked on. This is powerful stuff, right? So this answers a lot of questions for the people that are interviewing you. Now, life is easier for them. Not only life is easier for them, life is easier for you, because one of the main questions that get asked in every interview is, what kind of projects have you worked on? What are you building? What are you doing, right? What kind of projects are you building right now? Mentioning this here makes life a lot easier for you, as well as the person interviewing, excuse me, as well as the person interviewing you. So she's done a fantastic job. She's mentioned clearly what kind of project she's worked on. She's mentioned clearly what's the second project she's worked on. So that's really, really good. And I recommend that everybody who's watching this should do this in their resume as well. Mention clearly what kind of projects she has worked on. Not only will that give you more power, but that will also give you peace of mind, because now you know where they will ask questions from. They can't ask questions from, anywhere else. They will ask questions from these projects and these projects alone. So it's a very good tactic, right? It brings a lot of clarity. She's mentioned her experience. She's mentioned the location of the job. So to make sure you guys, understand this and kind of keep this in mind. Now, over here, this is the main part that I was talking about. This should match the job description. So the closer this is to job description, the more powerful your resume is, the more chances of your resume getting picked up are. So make sure this is as close to the job description as you can have it. Okay. So that's that. Now let's move on to the next experience she has. Next experience, she's worked for Landmore Dubai, USA, right? She mentions where the project for this one. It's right here. She mentions the project clearly. Then she mentioned her key contribution, which is almost very similar to the previous one. I would change it a little bit, tweak it a little bit, make sure they're not completely similar. Uh, that's that. So now that's what she has done, right? And then she's mentioned Agile Core, which is my company, and she's done some projects here. So we have our own project. So when you join our mentorship group, you will join, a project as a Scrum Master and a product owner, and you will work on those projects. So we had this project, and she worked on those. So those are some of the things that that she's reflected on her resume, and that's why her resume is getting so many calls, because it's a very powerful resume. She has mentioned the certification badge over here as well. That also adds a little bit of extra flavor to the resume. Now, I have seen many, many resumes, in the past that, for some weird way, they don't get calls, or some weird way, some weird resumes, they get calls, right? But when it boils down to the basics, when you boil it down to the basics and to the nitty gritty, it all comes down to very simple things. It all comes down to terminology. What's the terminology in your resume? How powerful is the terminology? How advanced is the terminology? If you look at this resume, this is a very advanced terminology that is being utilized in this resume. And that advanced terminology gives the recruiters a kind of a frame, puts the recruiters in a frame of mind where they start respecting this person more, just because of the language that they have mentioned in the resume. Not only that, it helps them clear out the screening process, because hundreds of other resumes that are being prepared by these so-called gurus out here on YouTube or wherever else, hundreds of these resumes, they don't have the strong technical language, right? So it's very easy for this candidate to win from those dum-dums. Now, that's number one, the terminology and the language. The language separates out everything. The second thing that this resume has going on for itself is, as I mentioned, the job description matches the first first experience, right? That's the second thing. The third thing this resume has going on for itself is that she's applying for banks, and she's all her experience has been in banking. So that's a very powerful thing as well. She is well versed with banking. She's well versed in the banking sector and the banking industry, and all her experience has been in banking. So now it becomes easier for the recruiter to trust her, because she's worked in banking. She understands the banking sector very well. She's worked as Scrum Master. She understands the projects really well. That increases her chances of success, so to speak, right? That's also a very powerful thing that's going on. For another thing that I like about her is that she has mentioned her projects clearly. That solves a lot of problems for the interviewer as well as the interviewee. So now the recruiters, they can look at the project, they can understand better what she's worked on, where she's coming from, what her depth level is, what kind of project she's worked on. And if some in banks mostly, they have very similar projects at one time. Most of the banks, they do very similar projects at one time. So looking at this, it gives them a peace of mind. Okay, this candidate is a good candidate. That's what this resume has going for itself. And that's what, if you are preparing your resume, that's what your resume should have if you are actually looking to get hired and get calls, right? And having experience is a must. If you don't have experience, you know it is what it is. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this type of content, please leave a like and subscribe. Make sure to check out, if you're looking for help with your resume, reach out to me, give me a call, email me. If you're looking for mentorship, make sure to email me as well. Give me a call. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. I have my number listed down below. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Adios, amigos.